The way typically cancer develops is there are several different things that can initiate cancer, okay? Nutrition, physical inactivity, environmental exposures, and then also like gene mutations. So when we think about the fundamental part of the cell, within every cell, we have our DNA, okay? That makes us uniquely who we are. Within our DNA, what can happen is we may have something called mutations. Mutations, which are essentially changes or alterations in the DNA sequencing, can actually do several different things. It may be a positive benefit, that mutation in the DNA. Think of like natural selection, right? These are really good things that happen. It may have a neutral effect where it changes the DNA and how it's expressed, but it really doesn't do any difference. Or it can have a negative outcome, which is more related to cancer and other chronic diseases.
Cellular response to animal fat and animal protein is everything that cancer requires. And on the flip side, it's not just like, oh, what do I eat then? I guess plants. No, the plants you're eating are so powerfully packed with these phytochemicals, plant-based chemicals. We prefer the word nutrients just because putting chemicals in your body doesn't sound good, but they are chemicals, like the resveratrol in the skin of red grapes, like the curcumin in turmeric, like the epigallocatechin gallate in green tea, if that doesn't sound like a chemical. So these are chemicals, but they're nutrients, and they go coursing through your veins, saturating your cells, bathing each cell like a little bathtub of nutrients that, depending on what you chose to chew and swallow, is either screaming out pro-cancer or anti-cancer. And it's called the teachable moment. And they're very just receptive without passing any judgment or criticism of, I'm not at all implying like, you did this, like you deserve this, never, never. But time to wake up. We're contributing unwittingly to our own cancers, to our own heart disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, obesity, diabetes, depression, acne, all of it.
It turns out animal proteins have the ratio of amino acids in the right proportion. A higher percentage of it is absorbed in our body. Therefore, animal proteins could generate faster rate of growth better than plant proteins. But the point is, later in subsequent years, it turned out that why would we want to retain more amino acids? Because to grow cells faster, yeah, okay, it might be worthwhile during growth, although not the best. It grows cancer cells faster too.
My favorite study to bring up to a woman in that position, hey, doc, look at me, I'm 62, I'm overweight, the damage has been done, like you're saying. And this is where I say, let me tell you a quick story. A study took 50 obese women. They didn't have breast cancer, they were just obese and, not as healthy as they could be. And they did two things. They measured IGF-1 levels. What's that? Insulin-like growth factor. This is the big daddy growth promoter that screams at all of your cells to grow, grow, grow. Your brain is super smart. It tells your liver how much to make for the day, because believe it or not, we have 50 billion cells that we turn over daily inside of us. So thanks to IGF-1, they get replaced. Post-exercise muscles need repairing. Your neurons in your brain need protecting. So IGF-1 has its role. But in excess, if there's more than the daily job for IGF-1, what's it doing? What's it doing? It made a child grow into a man, but if you're already all grown up, your hands aren't going to get bigger. It's screaming at cells to grow into cancer, grow into the liver, into the lung, into the bone, into the brain, grow fat, grow plaque, grow disease. And the only way to make an excess of IGF-1 is to consume animal protein or animal fat. And then the automatic cellular response is to elevate this massive growth promoter.
And what can impact the DNA mutation is actually, so think about it for UV sun exposure, right? And skin cancer. The skin damages our cells, which actually damages the DNA at a fundamental level. And when the DNA is damaged, what happens to our cells, if you remember again back to biology, is we have one cell and it copies itself and splits into two, right? Then the same thing keeps happening. 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, right? But if that initial cell has DNA damage to it, it's going to pass it on to cell after cell after cell after cell, and that's where cancer can really happen. The way that nutrition can play a role, whether positively or negatively, is that, for example, just like we were talking about before, heme iron. It's a pro-oxidant. It can damage the DNA of that cell. Okay, that's one way that it can do it. When we talk about dairy more specifically, it actually can increase hormones, and those hormones can really play a role in DNA damage, but also at the same time, we have cancer cells that are fueled by estrogen and so forth.
And then, among the things it does is it changes all these mechanisms, always in a way to promote more growth, more cancer growth, if you will. Could turn on cancer growth by feeding animal protein. We could turn it off by switching to plant protein or decreasing the consumption of animal protein. That whole concept of turning cancer on and off by nutritional means, that's a big deal. That was a big deal. And what hasn't yet been done enough of is cancer. I've been told a lot of stories by a lot of people in a lecture around the country. People come up to me, and I think they're telling the truth because they get tears in their eyes. And they tell me, I had cancer and I did this, and then they start crying. It's quite emotional for them to tell you. It says, you saved my life, or something like that. And so what they're talking about, and there's a lot of that kind of evidence, but this is interesting. The establishment in the research community, they have not done that kind of research because that would kind of shake up the establishment, I'm afraid. It's a different kind of research that has to be done. So the research on cancer that is not done because everybody wants to believe they have to have that chemo, they have to have this, they can't go against what the doctor says. It's sort of understandable. They're very vulnerable at the time they're diagnosed. So they do what the doctor says to do. And so we need more of good professional research.
When it comes to protection, the biggest protection that comes from nutrition is truly found in plant-based foods. And I always tell people, especially my clients, like, I don't have to teach you that fruits and vegetables are good for us, but what I do believe that is my job to help teach is why they're good for us. And why they're good for us is for several different reasons, but one of the biggest things is that they contain something called phytochemicals or phytonutrients. Phyto is the Greek word for plant. So what that really means is they're plant nutrients. They're only found in plants, and they have research benefits to show how they can actually help at the fundamental level. And one of them is to prevent DNA damage from happening. And which is amazing is actually help DNA repair that has already happened. So I'll have some cancer patients say, well, Allison, I already have cancer. What's the point? The point is we can actually try to get those cells to be healthy cells again and get rid of the bad cells. It can also help induce apoptosis or cause that apoptosis to happen more appropriately. And there's so many other benefits too. It can help prevent These phytochemicals can help prevent the things that we eat, drink, and breathe that become carcinogenic, such as smoking, right? Not that someone who's a smoker, if they eat a plant-based diet, is completely eliminated risk of having genetic damage if they eat a bunch of plant-based foods. It can help reduce that risk.
The only evidence-based way to eat to maximize health and to minimize illness, right? It's a two-way street.